You've been lied to about how artists blow up. Every single streaming era success story gets called fake, planted, or manufactured the second they go viral. From bedroom pop to drill to Afro beats, the accusation follows the same script: too polished, too fast, too connected. Today I'm breaking down every major artist accused of being an industry plant, from the first one who literally wore the label on his shirt to the ones tearing apart entire communities over a Grammy. Starting with the guy who made it a joke before it became a witch hunt, Rory. Rory is either the origin point of streaming era plant discourse or the first artist smart enough to make fun of it. In 2014, this teenager from Stone Mountain, Georgia, released Indigo Child, blending folk, rap, and alternative influences. By 2015, he was on XXL's freshman cover wearing a t-shirt that literally said industry plant in bold green letters. That shirt was a direct response to accusations his rise had been manufactured. He signed with Columbia Records quickly, had tensions with Atlanta's 2-9 Collective, who accused his camp of using their connections, and his crossover-friendly sound seemed tailor-made for festivals instead of local rap circuits. Critics felt his rapid elevation over local peers was suspiciously orchestrated. Here's the thing: Rory had industry support and major label backing, but there's zero proof his backstory was fabricated. He just succeeded too quickly for comfort. By wearing the accusation on his chest, he both acknowledged the discourse and mocked its reductive tendency to collapse complex careers into conspiracy. But if you think one ironic t-shirt sparked debate, wait until you hear about the guy who went from SoundCloud unknown to opening for Justin Bieber in 6 months. Post Malone. Austin Richard Post uploaded White Iverson to SoundCloud in 2015. Within months, the song hit 21 million plays and led to a Republic Records deal. But if you think one viral SoundCloud track to a major label contract sounds suspiciously smooth, wait until you hear the rest. Within a year, he went from unknown to touring with Justin Bieber on the Purpose World Tour, not opening at small venues, touring with Justin Bieber. Here's where it gets weird. Post himself jokingly said, "I'm an industry plant," in a 2015 interview. When pressed, he admitted he didn't even know what that meant, saying, "That's what they call me." Critics weren't laughing. They suggested his entire aesthetic, a tattooed white rapper over trap beats, aligned perfectly with a market niche labels wanted to fill. The theory: labels monitored SoundCloud for promising data, found Post, and scaled him at light speed through resources most artists never see. From an industry perspective, that's agile A&R. From a skeptical fan's perspective, it resembles a premeditated rollout retrofitted with a grassroots narrative. The racial politics around white artists fast-tracked in black genres made the accusations hit harder. But at least Post Malone's rise took a few months. The next artist went independent, stayed independent, and somehow still got accused of being a plant. Chance the Rapper. Chance the Rapper is either the most successful independent artist of the streaming era or one of the most sophisticated industry plants ever marketed. Before you dismiss this, hear me out. He broke through with 2013's Acid Rap, built a massive festival headlining career, and famously refused every major label deal thrown at him. By 2016, he was operating at arena scale without a traditional contract, releasing Coloring Book as a free mixtape exclusively on Apple Music. That project won 3 Grammys in 2017. On paper, he's the ultimate DIY success story, but here's where it gets complicated. Critics pointed to his constant A-list collaborations, corporate partnerships with Apple, and promotional muscle that looked suspiciously like label backing without the label. Platform exclusives, high-budget rollouts, coordinated media campaigns, all the infrastructure of a major release, just rebranded as grassroots independence. The paradox is real. No label contract doesn't mean no industry support. It just means the support flows through tech companies and brand deals instead of traditional A&R. Chance proved you don't need a label to operate like you have one, which is either brilliant or exactly what an industry plant would look like in 2016. At least he was transparent about his business model, unlike the next artist, whose squeaky clean R&B image hid absolutely nothing because nobody bothered looking that hard in the first place. Khalid. Khalid's rise was smooth, maybe too smooth. Released location in 2016 while still a teen in El Paso, and within a year the mellow R&B track became a major hit. His debut album American Teen stayed on the charts from March 2017 through January 2023. Not months, years. That level of sustained presence usually means one of two things: genuine staying power or deep promotional infrastructure quietly keeping you embedded in playlists and radio rotations. He signed with Right Hand Music Group, an RCA imprint early in his career, giving him access to major label machinery before most people had heard his name. At the same time, the narrative emphasized social media word of mouth, the usual grassroots discovery story. Young kids upload songs, they resonate, the algorithm does the rest. But when you've got major label backing from day one and your album charts for 6 straight years, people notice the gap between the story and the scale. The case against him is mostly vibes, early polish, immediate immediate label back, years of chart dominance suggesting heavy playlist prioritization. The case for him is equally vibe. Talented vocalist, relatable lyrics, no dramatic fabrications uncovered. He's just existed in that gray zone where success feels a little too frictionless to be entirely organic, but not suspicious enough to prove anything concrete. At least Khalid kept it subtle. But if you think one mellow R&B singer staying on the charts for half a decade is odd, wait until you hear about the teenage girl who supposedly recorded a Grammy-sweeping album in her brother's bedroom, Billie Eilish. Billie Eilish is probably the most famous person on this list, and that's exactly why the accusation hits so hard. Before you roll your eyes, hear me out. She recorded Ocean Eyes and most of her debut album in her brother Phineas's bedroom studio in LA, not a commercial facility, a bedroom. Phineas himself has described the setup as deliberately minimal, simple gear, small room, just the two of them experiment. That part is real. But here's where it gets complicated. Billie grew up in an entertainment-connected LA. Phineas was already writing songs professionally. By the time her 2019 debut arrived via Interscope, she had major label backing, slick music video, dominant playlist, and award show performed up. The rollout was professional. The scaling was in. Critics asked a simple question: does the bedroom narrative obscure how quickly major resources were deployed? Defenders fired back, emphasizing that the home studio origins are documented, that Phineas wrote the song, and that her dark, whispery, horror-tinged aesthetic ran counter to every standard pop star mold label's push. The truth sits in the middle. She did record in a bedroom. The label did move fast. Her family connect gave her act. Her talent kept her relevant. And women who rise this fast are almost always accused of being manufactured, regardless of the facts. But if you think family connections and early label interest are controversial, wait until you hear about the artist who went viral with a laptop webcam video that some people are convinced was artificially boosted by her father's marketing company, Clairo. Clairo's Pretty Girl is either the purest example of bedroom pop virality or one of the most carefully orchestrated viral campaigns of the 2010s, and the evidence for both is weirdly compelling. In 2017, she uploaded a lo-fi webcam video of herself singing into a laptop, added some cheesy effects, and watched it rack up millions of views. Clairo said the algorithm just ate it up, which sounds perfect, except her father worked in advertising and marketing, raising immediate questions about access to promotional channels regular artists couldn't touch. A 2018 blog alleged the video was spammed to millions via systems most bedroom artists have never heard of. The kind of infrastructure you'd need industry connections to even know exists. So either YouTube's algorithm genuinely loved a grainy webcam confession, or someone who understood digital marketing helped engineer that virality behind the scenes. After the viral success, she signed with the Fader label, worked with respected indie producers, and built a legitimate career. The artistry is real. The question is whether the launch was .community debate, centered on whether privilege shapes supposedly meritocratic algorithmic spaces, with defenders arguing her talent was unfairly delegitimized, which is valid, but when your dad knows how to game digital systems and your breakthrough feels suspiciously smooth, is it organic discovery or advantage disguised as luck? At least Clairo stuck around and proved herself, unlike the guy whose entire career is built on being Kendrick Lamar's cousin, Baby Keem. Baby Keem is either Kendrick Lamar's biggest cosign or hip-hop's most obvious nepo baby, and I can prove it. Before you roll your eyes, hear me out. Born Hakeem Jamal Carter Jr. In 2000, Keem started releasing projects like The Sound of a Bad Habit in 2019, with tracks like Orange Soda positioning him as this weird, off-kilter new voice in rap. By 2021, he was signed to PG Lang, Kendrick Lamar's creative company, and their familial relationship as cousins became fully public on the Single Family Ties, which is, not ideal for the whole self-made narrative, but here's where it gets complicated. They didn't actually see each other for nearly a decade after Keem moved to Las Vegas as a child, so the idea that Kendrick groomed him from birth is demonstrably false. That said, the advantages are undeniable. His 2026 album Casino featured Kendrick Lamar and Too Short. Those aren't features you get as a nobody. Those are features you get when your cousin is one of the most acclaimed rappers alive and directly runs your label. The debate centers on whether this is nepotism versus artistic originality. Critics argue that having Kendrick as your cousin shortcuts every struggle unconnected artists face. Supporters counter that his production style is genuinely distinctive, and he had credits before the Kendrick Association public. But let's be honest, most artists grinding in Vegas don't get a direct line to Kendrick Lamar's label, no matter how original their sound is. Keem did. At least Keem's connections were eventually made public. Unlike the next artist who weaponized the entire concept of virality into a career, Lil Nas X Old Town Road dropped in late 2018, initially gaining traction on TikTok via the Yeehaw Challenge meme, and at that point Lil Nas X had zero label involvement whatsoever. He purchased the beat hate online, uploaded the track independently to SoundCloud, and watched it explode organically through user-generated content. Columbia Records didn't sign him until after the viral breakout was already clear. The Billy Ray Cyrus remix then dominated the Billboard Hot 100 for a record 19 weeks, and that rapid ascent from meme to chart dominance led to suspicions despite the fully documented independent origins. But here's where it gets complicated. His 2021 single Industry Baby played directly with the concept, leaning into the accusation with prison choreography and tongue-in-cheek provocation. The song's title alone is a wink at the discourse. His open queerness and confrontational marketing entangled the plant accusations with culture war battles, meaning critics weren't just questioning his business model, they were uncomfortable with his genre blurring and his refusal to stay in a box. For every fan who saw him as a brilliant digital native who hacked TikTok and the Billboard charts, there was a detractor who insisted the whole thing felt too perfectly engineered. The evidence is unusually clear here. Multiple reports confirm Old Town Road began as a self-release track. TikTok users organically turned it into a meme before any label got involved, and Columbia signed him only after the song had already gained significant traction. If you think one viral cowboy is suspicious, wait until you hear about the Louisville kid who spent a decade grinding before anyone accused him of being manufactured. Jack Harlow. Jack Harlow is either the scrappiest grinder in Louisville or the smoothest industrial plant in modern rap, depending on which corner of the internet you're screaming from. Born in Kentucky in 1998, he started rapping as a literal child. His mother made him practice 4 to 5 hours every day after school. Not encouraged, made him. He spent his entire adolescence releasing mixtapes, performing at local shows, and building a regional following most people had never heard of. 2 weeks after high school graduation, he moved into an apartment with friends and kept grinding. Generation Now signed him, and in 2020, What's Poppin' happened. The remix with DaBaby, Tory Lanez, and Lil Wayne catapulted him from regional act to national fixture overnight. When people called him an industrial plant, Harlow pointed out that nobody saying it had been paying attention for the decade he'd been putting in work, which is fair. There's documented proof. The local press covered him for years. But here's where it gets complicated. The plant accusation isn't about whether he worked hard. It's about privilege and positioning. The argument goes that it's easier for labels to market a friendly, non-threatening white rapper to mass audiences than most of his black peers. The structural critique isn't that he didn't grind. It's that his grind got rewarded faster and bigger because of how he looks. The debate becomes whether you can call someone an industry plant when their decade of work is real, but the industry machinery around them operates on racialized logic. But if you think racialized privilege in rap is messy, wait until you hear about the band that trademarked their name before they ever posted a single song, Tramp Stamps, the pop-punk trio. Tramp Stamps is the clearest modern example where investigative work actually uncovered a pre-assembled, industry-backed band marketed as an organic TikTok discovery. And I can prove it. Around 2020-2021, 3 women with neon hair, tattoos, and faux feminist lyrics like I'd Rather Die started popping up on TikTok, combining warped tour aesthetics with hookup culture commentary. At first glance, they looked like a scrappy band that formed in someone's garage and went viral. Turns out no. Within days, online investigators found that each member had prior Nashville commercial songwriting credits and connections to established producers. Not amateur bedroom recordings, professional industry resumes. Then someone discovered that an entertainment management company had filed trademark applications on the group's behalf months before they appeared online, indicating a pre-planned rollout. Their social media pages bore all the hallmarks of professional PR involvement, formulaic artist bios, suspiciously rapid follower growth, coordinated posting schedules. This wasn't 3 musicians figuring it out as they went. This was a marketing campaign. Vox dubbed them the most hated band on TikTok. The Nashville scene called their EP a neo-pop punk fail. Here's why that matters. Punk aesthetics make manufactured projects especially vulnerable to backlash because the entire genre is built on grassroots credibility. When your trademark was filed by a management company before you posted a single video, the disconnect is brutal. But if you think a pop-punk PR disaster is bad, wait until you hear about the Brooklyn Drill Collective accused of being assembled in a boardroom. Kyle Rich, Jen Carter, Tata. Here's where the plant accusation stops being about uncovered evidence and starts being about vibes. 41 is a Brooklyn Drill Collective formed in 2022, and their crime is apparently rising too fast while looking too good on camera. The group started recording together on BandLab during COVID. 3 kids from different parts of Brooklyn who found each other through the pandemic's weird digital proximity. Kyle Rich handles lyric, Tata brings the energy, Jen Carter delivers sharp wordplay, standard Drill Collective origin story, but tracks like Goer show professional direction, polish that made people immediately suspicious. The video has real cinematography, the production sounds expensive, and in the post-Pop Smoke era, where labels have established clear pipeline for Brooklyn drill talent, any young act that looks this put together gets the accusation thrown at them. Here's where it gets messy. They're signed to Republic Records, which should settle the debate, but the accusation started before that deal was public. Now that it's confirmed, people treat it as vindication rather than the timeline of when they actually signed versus when they first blew up is muddled enough that both sides. This is what the industry plant label for. It's no longer a conclusion drawn from evidence. It's a preemptive accusation applied to any Gen Z act that rises faster than people think they should. Speaking of preemptive accusations applied, fast rising Bronx rap hair, Ice Spice. Ice Spice, from unknown Bronx drill rapper to global in roughly 8 months, which is either a testament to TikTok's power or proof that someone hit the fast forward button in her career. She gained major recognition late 2022, Month Feelin' You, a drill-inflected single whose dismissive hook resonated on TikTok like wildfire. The music video, shot in recognizable Bronx location emphasizing her distinctive ginger curls, turned her into a visual meme overnight. Drake co-signed her almost immediately, which in rap terms like getting knighted by the queen, except it actually matters for your career. By early 2023, she'd signed a reportedly $2 million deal with 10K Projects and Capitol Records, $2 million, for someone who'd been relatively unknown 6 months prior. By 2024, she was preparing her debut album, Yayuke, with singles like Think You the Shit, Fart, a title that either demonstrates fearless creativity or absolute chaos. That kind of near instantaneous cultural ubiquity made skeptics ask the obvious question: how does someone go from nobody to everywhere that fast without serious? Ice Spice has addressed the accusations by ignoring work. Her defenders note that she came up through real Bronx drills, that her persona reflects authentic local culture, and that the TikTok major label pipe stand not exception. Critics combine the plant accusations with gender dismissals about her technical skill and meme-savvy femininity, turning the whole debate into a mess of sexism and skepticism. The evidence shows a viral breakout, a fast label deal, and heavy promotional investment. What it doesn't show is secret backing before Munch or a fabricated grassroots story. But if you think TikTok drill stars attract intense scrutiny, wait until you hear about the Disney-trained pop star who became the most accused industry plant of 2024, Sabrina Carpenter. Sabrina Carpenter isn't an industry plant in the classic sense, because you can't secretly manufacture someone who spent 4 years on a Disney Channel show. Born in 1999 in Pennsylvania, she gained prominence as Maya Hart on Girl Meets World from 2014 to 2017, signed with Disney-owned Hollywood Records, and spent nearly a decade transitioning from teen star to pop artist. Her 2024 singles like Espresso and Please 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 made her dominant in global pop streaming, turning her from a recognizable face into an inescapable presence. The Disney background was always visible, the record deal was always public, so why do people keep calling her a plant? Here's the thing, when a 2024 Spectator piece argues she's not a plant but something worse, what they're saying is that the term has evolved into shorthand for aesthetic resentment. The article criticizes her as overly manufactured and stylistically monotone, which is completely different than secretly fabricated. The community is divided predictably. Fans celebrate a decade of work before mainstream attention, while critics resent the corporatized Disney to pop pipeline and the marketing of an industry veteran as a relatable newcomer. Nobody's pretending she came out of a bedroom in Ohio. They're mad that the system that made her is so seamless, so institutional, so visibly optimized that calling it organic feels like a joke. The plant label becomes a stand-in for taste debates rather than secret fabrication. People who don't like her sound reach for industry plant because it sounds more legitimate than, I just don't like Disney kids becoming pop stars. But at least with Sabrina Carpenter, you know exactly what you're getting, unlike the artist we're covering next, where the accusations hit harder because the timeline was faster and the stakes involved an entire continent's representation. Tyla is South African, born in 2002 in Johannesburg, and in 2023 she released Water, a song blending Afrobeats, Amapiano, and pop that sparked the viral Cirque Water Challenge on TikTok and made her an international name almost overnight. Then in 2024, she won the inaugural Best African Music Performance Grammy, which sounds like a triumph, except it immediately raised eyebrows across the entire African music community. Here's the thing, accusations emerged that Western labels and award bodies were elevating her specifically to overshadow established Afrobeats artists who had been grinding for years. When you look at the co-signs she received, Jay-Z, Beyonce, Kanye, Usher, all within months, the grooming for success claims start to feel less like paranoia and more like pattern recognition. The industry plant label, in her case, operates at the intersection of global power dynamics and representation. Critics argue Western gatekeepers are selecting pop-friendly, English-singing faces over locally oriented artists who've been building their scenes for decades. She won the very first Best African Music Performance Grammy, not because she was the most deserving African artist, artist, but because she was the most palatable to Western audiences and executives looking for someone they could market easily. She responded by emphasizing her desire to shine a light on African music rather than displace it, and her supporters argue the backlash misdirects frustration that should target systemic inequalities instead. But within African music communities, the question remains, why her, why now, and who decided? Tyla didn't create the Grammy category. She didn't choose which artists Western platforms would promote, but she's the one facing the accusations, while the institutions that shape these outcomes remain largely unexamined. If you enjoyed this video and want to see more, click the video on the screen now.